In the efficiency and effectiveness handout, we are going to be covering the different components of organizational design and how efficiency and effectiveness can be a focus for your individual organizational case study. So first I would like for you to print out or get accessible the E&E handout, and we're going to go ahead and cover the different sections so that you can fill it out for your assignment. First of all, the definition of organizational design is broken up into two different components. The first component deals with effectiveness. It is talking about how we can partition the large tasks of an organization into smaller tasks that individual employees or experts in an area can complete. The second component is talking about coordination between our smaller tasks between individual employees so that they can fit together to be efficient in order to realize the organization's goals in a way that is going to help leverage the organization in its industry. So let's look at the two different types of organizational goals. First, we have efficiency, which is going to be focusing on how we can take the inputs that efficiency is going to focus on taking the inputs and utilizing the resources of the organization in a productive way to minimize costs. Whereas effectiveness is really focusing on the product of the organization, whether it is getting out a number of products on time or developing a quality service. The focus on effectiveness is really looking at how much money we can bring in over a particular amount of time. So when we think about efficiency and we think about effectiveness, these tend to be competing priorities. Some organizations solely focus on efficiency because minimizing costs is going to be extremely important to them so that they can be a low-cost competitor. So an example of an organization that focuses on costs would be the grocery store Aldi. For those of you who have not heard of it, it is one of the most popular brands in Germany. The grocery store just focuses on generic items mainly, does not advertise, and people actually have to rent their carts so that the employees do not have to spend their time and their salary on going out and getting carts, because paying for carts motivates you to get the money back. So they're definitely focusing on efficiencies. Other organizations focus on effectiveness, where they're interested more in maybe quality of products, really being the first mover when it comes to innovation. So efficiencies are not necessarily what they are going to be worried about, especially when they're competing in a fast-moving industry. So an example of an organization that really focuses on effectiveness is going to be GE. They have a lot of their money put into research and development. They are first movers in many different industries, and so they're interested in just getting the output and the revenues related to those outputs, and then they will deal with efficiencies later. Of course, all organizations are going to value both efficiency and effectiveness, but generally there's going to be a dominant priority depending on what industry you're in. Now let's look at the next section of the handout. This is going to be a way for you to graph out where your organization that you are assessing falls on efficiency and effectiveness. You can think of both constructs as ranging from low to high. So we can be low on efficiency, or we can be high and concentrate on efficiency, or we can be low on effectiveness, or we can really concentrate on effectiveness. So an organization is going to be able to do a little bit of both. And what we need to do is figure out what area your organization falls in. Is it going to be in quadrant A, where the organization is low on both efficiency and effectiveness? Or are they going to fall into quadrant D, where they're high on both, or fall into B or C quadrants, where they focus on one or the other? So let's look at the individual descriptions for each of these quadrants. Quadrant A is the low quadrant, and that means that an organization really isn't focused on being effective. They really don't have a lot of goals to meet. They're pretty happy where they're at, and they're definitely not able to either focus on efficiencies or they don't care. So an example of an organization that would fall into quadrant A, it would be either a startup company where maybe they just have one overarching goal or idea that they're starting off with and definitely haven't developed efficiencies because they don't have enough people or resources, or a monopoly that is pretty complacent in where they're at in their industry. Quadrant B is where you are low on effectiveness but high on efficiencies. So these types of organizations are really going to put in just negligible amount of resources to produce their services or their products. They are the low cost providers, and they really need to have stable environments where they know what their competitors are doing in order to stay competitive. Quadrant C is those who are focusing solely on effectiveness. So the organizations are going to be like the GE company that focuses on the goals. They tend to be in highly volatile environments where there's a lot of competition and innovation. And of course, they are going to be the ones who are trying to get the first mover advantage. Then we have quadrant D, which is the most sought after position for all organizations, but it is hard to achieve. The computer industry is a good example of this because they have to not only be highly competitive in terms of innovation, but they also have to be competitive on costs. So Apple would be a corporation that would fall into quadrant D, where they are focused on innovation and quality, but also need to be conscious of ensuring that their costs are low. Now I want you to rank the organization that you're assessing on this graph and try to put them in a place between, and try to place them as best as you can on these two dimensions of efficiency and effectiveness. And then answer the following questions. What does the organization do, and what is its major work activity? How does it score on both efficiency and effectiveness? Where would the organization like to be in the graph? So thinking about its mission, its goals, the vision of the company, and where the industry is going. Once you are done filling out this homework assignment, I want you to post your answers on your individual blog.